4-stage life cycle. And so this is true of all moths and all butterflies. They are a large class. In fact, 157 unique native species live right here in Michigan. The monarch is one that we count, but it's kind of a funny one because it overwinters somewhere else. Unlike some butterflies, like a mourning cloak butterfly, they stay here all winter and actually stay here 24/7, 365. This one actually leaves the United States and goes to Mexico every winter. So butterflies lay eggs. So do moths, by the way. They lay eggs, and those eggs will hatch, and they'll turn into a caterpillar. The caterpillar needs to eat a host plant. A host plant is a fancy word of saying, hey, whatever I am as a caterpillar, I'm going to need a food source, and that food source is called my host plant. Who can tell me what the host plant is to the monarch butterfly? Shout it out. I heard it back there. Perfect. I've got something for you. Right back there. Yep. Yes, I heard you back there. Thank you. Can you hand that back to the lady in white? Thank you. Yes, milkweed is the single host plant to the monarch butterfly. In fact, there's 7 different types of milkweed here in Michigan that we can provide for this caterpillar. But the real key thing to remember is if we don't have milkweed as a plant in our communities, we don't have this butterfly. It's as simple as that. Now keep in mind, they have to go into this house, and this house is called a chrysalis. I love it because there's some science back here. Thank you, teachers. Educators like, don't forget to tell them that moths make cocoons and butterflies make chrysalis. Right? I even teach that to first graders, you guys. So keep that in mind. As a chrysalis emerges and ecloses, out comes this gorgeous butterfly. This process takes 30 days. 30 days from the time you're an egg to the time you're an adult butterfly. And I'll be testing you all on this in just a moment. All right, so we now know that the life cycle is 30 days and that there's 4 stages. Now let's talk monarch. Monarch butterflies are flying up through our country right now, guys. Who saw monarch this year so far? Yeah, a few? Okay, I saw mine yesterday. I was so excited. So, guys, I want you to know that the United States, obviously here in orange, Mexico down here, Canada along here, the monarch butterfly actually shares 3 countries. And I'm going to point to right here. I'm going to show this to you. This little gold dot is the Samels rainforest. It is a spot in Mexico. They have lots of fir trees there. So conifers are in the Samels rainforest. It's about 30, oh thank you, there's my folder, there it is. It's about 30 square acres of rainforest habitat, and it's actually a temperate rainforest. So what does that mean? It means that the trees are so tightly bound together that it forms its own ecosystem, its own habitat to protect the monarch butterfly. Now, every spring, we're talking March for Mexico, the season will begin, and these butterflies that have overwintered all in the Samels rainforest will take off, and they're going to fly to Texas. Now, here in Texas, the first generation are born. How many days does it take to become a butterfly? 30. Yeah, you're all paying attention. 30 days after these first generation have come together, actually the ones from Mexico, they're going to create a first generation 30 days later. They'll fly to Tennessee and Kentucky around May. Now, they're going to stop right there. These are the children that came from Texas. Now, they land in Tennessee, Kentucky, and they're going to breed. And how many days does it take before another generation? 30. You're all with me. Second generation takes off from Tennessee, Kentucky, and flies to us. Look it's June, and guess what? We saw some hands go up. Monarchs are here. The 3rd generation will be born here. We're seeing the 2nd generations come in from Tennessee, Kentucky, land right here in our backyards, and use what plant is it? Milkweed. Milkweed to lay their eggs and start the 3rd generation. Now, the 3rd generation is going to be with us all summer. We rock. That's why we host the 3rd generation. And the 4th generation will go as far as Canada. They keep going north. Now, did you notice how the clock is ticking here, though? We've got August and all the way into fall, September. The days are getting shorter, right? Nights are getting colder, and the butterflies know this. So this 4th generation, who's been born after how many days? 30. 30 days, so another month has passed, and they wake up and go, man, it's a little chilly. The days are shorter. They all at once know, without anybody telling them, that they are to fly back to Mexico. Right? The 4th generation. We call this the super generation. Why? Because they're super cool. They live for months at a time, guys. The average life of a butterfly is 2 to 4 weeks. But this freaky butterfly lives up to 6 months. 6 months. That is a super generation. In fact, get into the sciences, kid, right? You can tell us why that's a super generation. We're still working on that. But this animal will diapause, basically hibernate itself all all the way through the winter months, and then be the same butterfly that goes back to Texas to start this whole migration over again. Now remember, when they fly back here to Mexico, they are the great-great-grandkids of those that started the trip. They've never seen the place they're going to, right? They just know in their bug brains they're supposed to fly south, and they end up in the exact same place that their great-great-grandparents started the trip. How amazing is that migration cycle, right? So keeping this in mind, that this cycle goes round and round every year, but there's a few things that get in the way. Climate events. Did you guys know in 2002, there was a single storm, just one catastrophic storm in 2002 in Mexico. First, it started to rain, and then the temperature dropped, and then it started sleeting, and the poor little butterflies are like, oh, okay, let's snuggle in, and then it froze, and then it was freezing rain, and then it snowed. By morning, guys, there was 500 million of butterflies on the ground. They were knee-deep, guys. The scientists wept as they literally kicked through dead butterflies, trying to get an accurate count of anybody left in the tree still alive. Catastrophic. It was from climate. Again, not too many years ago, Texas. It snowed in Texas when these poor guys were trying to make it through March. I know this because many people in Michigan actually were growing their milkweed and sent it to Texas early. Why? Because Texas had all of their milkweed freeze. So keeping in mind that anywhere along these stops, they could run into catastrophic weather events that could knock out an entire generation of monarchs. So that is something that is also plaguing our poor monarchs. The third thing I want to talk to you about is not only making this run through the entire calendar year, and they're dealing with weather changes, they're dealing with us. We are supposed to be planting lots of milkweed. Did you know the United States got rid of 80% of its milkweed in just 20 years? From the time of 2000 up to 2020, they did a census. How much milkweed's left in the country? We were down 80% in over 20 years. Now, it shouldn't surprise you that we're also down 22% in native butterfly species. 22%. Hey, listen, this kid over here is why I'm so passionate, right? Because I want kids like him to grow up and see these animals, which is why I'm here talking to you, right? It's super important. As we see populations decline, there's a few things you guys can do to help. Number one, you're all set. Everybody give Mama Jude an applause. So there's a few things you can do. Do not give up hope. Number one, we've armed you with milkweed seeds. You may all take packets today. Inside here, there's about 15 to 20 plants. If you want to be super groovy and do your own milkweed, you know those pods that get generated by the plants on the roadsides? Just save them, throw them into a paper bag for the winter, and freeze them. This is a method called striation. You have to striate the seeds. You have to basically freeze them for them to activate. So if you collect all those seeds and you just leave them in your house all winter, they're not going to germinate the following spring. They actually have to go through a freezing. These have already been striated and are ready for planting. So you guys scratch up some sandy soil, throw them in, wait for it to rain, and Bob's your uncle. Okay? So please take some of these.
How many days to germinate on those?
Typically 10 days to 2 weeks, you'll start to see some activity. If not, do it again, grab a couple packets. My thing is, if you don't scrape up the sand a little bit, mice and birds will see your seeds, right? Like, ooh, free food, lunch on this guy, right? So make sure you hide some of those seeds just under the sand, right? Just under the dirt. Perfect. The other thing I want to tell you about is, remember we talked about host plants? Just a quick raise of hand, who can tell me what is a host plant? Oh, you guys, come on. What is it? It's what they eat. It's what the caterpillar eats. Sir, back to you. Thank you so much for answering. So remember, it's what the caterpillar needs to eat. I also have a handout here for you. Remember, there's 157 native species of butterfly here in Michigan. 407 moths. Let me repeat that. 157 butterflies, 407 moths. So it's kind of exciting. If you're into moths, like this is a cool state to be in. 157 butterflies, couldn't put them all, but these are kind of the greatest hits of common butterflies you're going to see in your garden. I've encouraged people to take this list to your garden centers. Go ask them, hey, show me these plants. Because honestly, or better yet, sit down with your loved ones and look up all these butterflies. I bet you'd be like, hey, I thought that was a moth, or I didn't know that was a butterfly. I thought that was a piece of dirt. Wow, that's a butterfly? There's one in here called the Eastern Comma. And they have kind of a raggedy wing. They look like a piece of bark. They're very common here. They're a woodland butterfly, and you all have woods near your house. So keep this in mind. Please take this with you. This is great because it's not about making butterfly habitat. It's about making caterpillar habitat so we have butterflies, right? So we're going at a little bit different. Last thing I'm going to talk to you about is the use of systemic insecticides. One of the great things I'm most proudest of is Elk Rapids. Elk Rapids just recently, 2 years ago, became a Monarch City, USA. What does that mean? It means that it's a designated, I know, right? Worthy of applause, you guys. Elk Rapids actually took initiatives to help protect the monarch, and they did it 3 simple ways. Right here it says they planted milkweed, right? The other thing was education. Did you know at the beginning of their harbor days, we release 100 monarchs at their opening ceremonies every year? 100 monarchs go up and fly above the crowds, and everybody's in awe, right? That's to remind them of the achievement that they did. Because not only did they start planting more milkweed in all their parks, but most importantly, they removed the systemic chemicals that have been killing our animals. Systemic insecticides are called neonicotinoids. Neo, new, nica, nicotine, noids, molecular. So we've got new molecular nicotine that's killing all invertebrates. So let's go back to the beginning of my talk when I talked to you about 90% of God's animals are the animals I'm talking about. Guess what neonicotinoids kills, guys? 90% of all God's animals are eliminated with this chemical. We use it on our lawns every day. We call it lawn treatment or grub killer. Guys, please don't be naive. Please understand what you're doing to the environment when you do this. Neonicotinoids is a systemic insecticide. I actually don't even call it insecticide. I call it a biocide. Because if it's an insecticide, that just assumes it's killing insects. But honestly, it actually kills songbirds, right? It will kill nematodes. It will kill bumblebees. It will kill stick bugs. There's so many things that neonicotinoids kills that oftentimes I question why we're using it in the first place. The neonicotinoids are used often as a granular or foliar spray. They get taken up by the roots of the plant and arm your flowers with toxin. Let me say it again. They get taken up by the roots and arm your flowers with toxin. So any animal visiting your flowers is going to die from toxicities. So keep in mind, neonicotinoids, and there's information, you can take a picture of this. It has the word on there. If you want to go down that rabbit hole today, feel free. I'm not here to bum you out about neonicotinoids. I'm here to sound the alarm. We have a huge problem in our communities, guys. We're losing not just the monarch butterfly, but again, a 22% decline in native butterfly populations across the board from 2000 to 2020. We did a big census in the United States. 22% decline in these animals. So if you love butterflies, please reconsider using things like neonicotinoids, systemic insecticides that arm those plants, those flowers you're growing, with harmful, lethal chemicals. Keep in mind, neonicotinoids, it's actually a neurotoxin. So again, if you enjoy having neurological side effects, or you see your dogs convulsing and seizuring, yeah, go ahead, keep using it.
So where is this in the granular?
Granular grub control, anything that's produced by Bayer is a neonicotinoid. They're also now making systemic fungicides and herbicides. So again, if you want to go and talk about that, we can on the off. I'm not going to present you that. But I want to let you know there's a lot of systemic, synthetic insecticides or biocides that have been created to eliminate 90% of God's animals. And we're using them at an alarming rate in this country. Now, just to let you know where we stand as a whole entire planet, these chemicals are banned in the EU. Europe won't use them. Canada stopped using them about a decade ago because they didn't make sense. But the EU, you know how they got it stopped? The beekeepers went to Parliament and they covered themselves in pig's blood, right? And hung themselves saying, look, you're killing us as beekeepers. So it's the beekeepers that stepped up to help create safety for butterflies and other insects because beekeeping is a huge industry. In the United States, it's a big industry, but we're quietly saying, oh, colony collapse disorder isn't a thing. It actually is a thing, and it's prolonged by the systemic use of insecticides. So guys, keep that in mind. We want to plant more milkweed. We want to make sure we're doing lots of education. Inform your neighbors. Let them know this animal has a 95% decline. So with a 95% decline, it deserves talking about because we want this animal to be around for your grandkids and future generations to come. As I finish up, feel free to approach the table. I'll be happy to show you how the boy has 2 black dots on his wings. The girl has no black dots on their wings. That is how we identify males from female monarch butterflies. They are amazing animals. They also taste with their feet and they smell with their antenna. So keep that in mind when you're watching your butterflies flitter about your plants this summer, that they're actually tasting everything they land on and they smell with those beautiful antennae that they have. Are there any questions about our monarchs and how we can help them?
Well, I have one.
Sure.
maybe I missed this, but could you tell me the difference between a chrysalis and a cocoon?
Sure, that's a great one. So I'm going to point to this. Chrysalis are often smooth. They're smooth and they're often positioned up in trees or right under branches to keep themselves dry. Gosh, I found one underneath a folding chair. So just so you know, they often find structures like, again, the sides of your barn in the shade. That's where these pupa will set up. Cocoons are often fuzzy. They look almost like fabric's been manufactured around the animal. And that's why you're looking at a cocoon, right? Is by definition something that is more fluffy. And again, the caterpillar makes it with their mouth. They make almost like a fabricated jacket for their pupa to go into. They're all pupa, so everybody pupates, goes through metamorphosis, but this one specifically, the smooth ones are called chrysalis that butterflies make, and the fuzzy, really big, cool fuzzy ones that you find are moths, and those are made with cocoons.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
One of the islands, Drummond Island over that, where a lot of monarch butterflies congregate.
Yes, great point, great point. So we get calls all the time about monarchs. Remember we were talking about the calendar. Oh, perfect, thanks, Tom. Yeah, this calendar. So we were talking about that super generation. Man, there's a lot of excitement around this fourth generation, right? Because they're coming from Canada and they've got to jump over our Great Lakes. Because of that, guys, Whitefish Point, always get the calls, they're here, there's people in panic. They're come by the thousands, right? To certain areas, including Drummond Island. Why? Because that's a stopover in our Great Lakes. One of my favorite stories, actually there's two I'll tell you real quick. One of them, it was a maritime guy. He was in the Maritime Academy. He took a video of literally a cloud of monarchs as they came down and they all settled on the bow of his ship. And everybody came out to take pictures, right? It's like, wow, look at all these monarchs. But literally, as the winds changed and the boat started heading inland, they all took off at once. They were going the wrong way, like, no, we're heading this way, boat, see ya. But they used the boat as a setting point as they were migrating through the Great Lakes. Another one, just so you know, they can see monarchs on weather systems. So the National Weather Service has actually given us reports when they see the migration of the monarch in mass coming across the United States. They oftentimes will locate that migration mass and then wish them good luck, which of course makes me really happy. Because that tells me that they're successfully monitoring this travel back to the Olmel rainforest, back to Mexico. It's pretty special. Thank you for your comment. I appreciate that. Any other questions? Thank you so much, everybody.